Last night I was making a couple of editorial changes. My laptop, actually I was writing the paper, and this morning I had to go to Kinko's to get it printed out. So their bill includes a little thought for the day, which is I think, therefore I am, I think. I guess it's just a coincidence that I got that one. The history of GREX includes a tale of two cities, San Francisco, more accurately the Bay Area, and Los Angeles. I should say that GREX probably is has consistently been one of the larger centers in the ACRE network, running around 50 or 60 members each year. Anyway, anyone who's interested in having work can join GREX. The story of GREX began with 25 years ago in San Francisco. GREX was founded by individuals who had encountered Tavistock while on the East Coast. Its initial task was to provide education, training, and consultative work from a group relations Tavistock perspective. The actual activities of the organization were directed towards providing support to members of the board who elected to direct group relations conferences. The nature of that support was not specifically defined. In general, as was probably true with many other centers, it took the form of providing a pool of consulting staff for conferences and an informal network to market and refer potential conference attendees. Additionally, less tangible but perhaps more important, the organization operated as a kind of peer review group. The formal and informal discussions served to initially establish and then maintain the Tavistock methodology, to legitimize the authority and competence to work in this model. Founders of GREX also established relations with a number of educational institutions in the Bay Area, mainly through their individual connections. These loose affiliations included the Wright Institute, Langley Porter Neuropsych Institute with UC, California School of Professional Psychology, Letterman Hospital, Fort Miley VA, probably a few others I've forgotten about. GREX has sponsored 1 to 2 standard conferences, frequently 2 or more mini-conferences, and periodic seminars and discussion groups each year since that time, with the single exception of 1994. The standard conferences were marketed to the general public and were attended by 40 to 80 individuals. The mini-conferences served a special population, such as residents and staff at Letterman Hospital. The mini-conferences were generally attended by 15 to 25 individuals. Seminars and discussions groups occurred periodically around some particular interest area of a member of GREX. In 1974, one of the founders of GREX, a psychiatrist, moved to LA. There he was joined by another psychiatrist, and they formed a group of interested people who also were involved in the UCLA VA resident training program. This group, under their leadership, founded SCOLA. SCOLA's mission was essentially the same as that of GREX, to provide education, training, and consultation in the Tavistock model. SCOLA focused on the integration of the Tavistock model into the educational curriculum of UCLA. Most of the members of SCOLA were associated with those institutions, UCLA or the VA hospital, in one way or another, and the work of SCOLA came to be viewed as synonymous to a large degree with the UCLA VA educational program. Nonetheless, that integration has been very successful and may offer a model for others. In 1977, the founding fathers of SCOLA, 2 white male psychiatrists, left after they became embroiled in some political battles within the UCLA bureaucracy. The wounds from the battle were such that the founding fathers left both the UCLA system and resigned from their positions of leadership within the SCOLA board. Given the degree of dependence SCOLA had at that time on the UCLA VA affiliation, the withdrawal of the founding fathers may have been in SCOLA's best interest, decreasing conflict with this larger institution. But those who remained in SCOLA were not prepared to pick up the mantle of leadership that lay on the table in front of the remaining board. Those who attempted to do so were deeply wounded, injuries from which they still suffered. The organization SCOLA was still in its infancy. It felt it was not able to provide for itself. It needed its father's guidance during that transition of leadership, and they were not available. Within a year, SCOLA closed its doors. Those members who retained an interest in group relations work migrated, figuratively speaking, north and joined GREX. During this same time frame, GREX, comparatively, had been tripping along with few worries, planting the seeds of TAVI in a number of institutions and attempting to integrate a group relations perspective into a variety of real-world applications. These applications range from designing mental health treatment programs with the cognizance of Beyond's work in the British Army Hospital, to turning a group relations eye towards architectural design. While most of these applications were being done by individuals who were members of GREX, usually board members, not by GREX itself, still, GREX enjoyed some sense of ownership of them. There certainly were conflicts within GREX at that time. Great debates raged about issues of technique, management, and membership. But GREX enjoyed a sense of accomplishment in varied settings as well, and its focus was on how to accomplish more. The diversity of its institutional affiliations and its membership turned out to be an asset when compared to the experience of SCOLA. It had been protected from the cost of relying on, to use a business term, a sole source supplier, a dependence that had contributed to SCOLA's demise. A theme that was dominant in both organizations during the late 70s was that of leadership transitions. But the very different histories of the now expanded GREX may have muddied those waters. Splits between the northern and southern GREX, the newly expanded GREX, were common. Generally speaking, Northerners did not feel abandoned by the founders, perhaps the opposite. They, the founders of GREX, were still around, taking on a mentoring role for some, offering helpful and unhelpful criticism to the board, and appearing at events when asked. They were still available, and periodically they would anoint a new director. The tensions around leadership transitions for Northerners were generally adolescent in nature. That is to say, the struggle to establish a point in time or in experience when one is ready to assume the responsibilities of adulthood, in fact, must demand that responsibility. There is a clear parallel in relation to the determination of competence at the task of conference directing, the willingness to assume the responsibility and take the authority. This is not to say that personalities were irrelevant or that the transition to leadership was a tidy process. It was not. In the North, a powerful pull existed towards counterdependence. Each structure had to be reinvented by each new generation of leaders. The Northern culture had tremendous difficulty building on work that had gone before. It takes a long time to build a wagon when you have to design each wheel from scratch.